to recording number 8. Now, you may hear me say that, and you may be asking me, Richie, what do you mean recording number 8? I'm serious. This is the eighth time that I am recording this video. Every single other one of the previous 7 times I have fucked it up. 2 out of those 7 times I have lost my damn mind when I fucked it up. So I promise this time 2 things to you. I promise to stay calm, and I promise that this time will be the time where I don't fuck it up. You're welcome. I am losing my mind right now, but I'm staying calm. So you may be looking at the images that are on my screen right now, and you may be thinking, what the fuck is going on? I am narrating a rewrite of a fanfiction that I made a year ago called The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Hell. It'll all be explained in due time. So without further ado, I welcome you to The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Hell 2. 2 as in rewrite, not as in sequel. I'm working on a sequel, but do not ask me about it. Please, please, please. Let's start. Alistair had found himself having trouble remembering just how long he had been working with Charlie at the Happy, now Has-Been, hotel. Time was a concept that no longer mattered to him, not in a place like this. It flew by considerably faster in hell than it did on Earth, and it left him uninterested in the passage of it in general. Perhaps it was days, perhaps it was weeks, and maybe it had even been a month. All he knew was that he no longer cared. Now, something close to that of night had fallen upon the hotel. Everyone else had long since gone to sleep. Filthy sinners. They'd sloth their days away if they could. They were true demons. Alistair, on the other hand, was very alert. He found solace in the front of the hotel. Cars, people, creatures all passed by without issue. None of them stopped for a second glance at the extravagant building just off to their side. None of them wanted to, quite frankly. Whether it be his presence or the ridiculousness of the concept that scared off potential clients, Alistair didn't know. That was another one of the many things he had stopped caring about. The radio demon had little time to focus on the meaningless. He had picked up a new life, a new job, a new everything. He was Alistair now. His old name mattered not. Alright, so, oh my god, did I have my cursor on screen the entire time? Oh my god, I had my cursor on screen this whole time. I am not counting that as a fuck up. I am at my wit's end. I'm just gonna let that stay there. So, throughout these recordings, I have, throughout these recordings, I'm losing it. It is 11 p.m. It's 11:30. I've been doing this since 10:30. It's been an hour. Oh god. Okay. So, in every single recording I've done, my way to signify that I'm doing a separation between parts of the story is I would do a little circle here with my cursor. I don't know if you can even see my cursor. Either way, yeah. So, I'll also talk because I cannot exist or do a fanfic narration without making bad commentary. It's kind of like my specialty. So I'll make bad commentary if you can't see my cursor. And yeah, you'll be able to tell. So back to narration mode. The room was cold and dingy, but the circle drawn on the floor seemed to radiate a warmth unlike any other. Scribbled across the rotted wooden ground was a messy red pentagram. Every symbol in writing was done with precision. As much precision as a toaster could manage, anyhow. So, are we all ready? Toaster said in their usual and unfitting sweet tone, tapping one foot against the ground. They could sense Blanky's unease. The blanket was fidgeting awkwardly, eyes unable to part with the red-stained ground. "It's not blood, Blanky," Blanky mumbled in a poor attempt to reassure himself. "It's not blood." Out of the four of them, Toaster seemed to be the only one who was actually ready to go. Hell was far from a regular vacation spot, in all fairness. They looked up, scanning the appliances that stood at each edge of the pentagram. Blanky was afraid, Kirby was bored, and Lampy, well, Toaster couldn't quite tell in that regard. "I'm not counting that as a fuck up, fuck you!" At first, he appeared dejected, staring at the ground with a tight frown across his face. When he glanced to his side, catching Toaster's gaze, his expression twisted into one of annoyance. He rolled his eyes and scoffed. Twisting his cord into the shape of crossed arms and scrunching up his lampshade, Lampy groaned. "I just don't see a point in doing this, is all." "Sure," Toaster sneered, though they did it in a comforting manner. Lampy wasn't that hard to see through. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Oh, nothing." "I'm being serious. I don't want to bring radio back," Lampy said, his tone sharp and genuinely serious. He opened his mouth, as if to say more, but he slowly closed it. Good enough, Toaster thought. They tapped their feet against the ground once more, this time signaling for everyone to pay attention. "Now are we ready?" Toaster asked again. The appliances nodded with varying levels of confidence. "Then it's time to say the magic words." All of them locked their hands in cords, interlocking the pentagram. Toaster tried their best to pay no mind to the floor, which was beginning to glow a vibrant red. In unison, they began to recite the strange chant they had heard from a particularly weird Satan-worshipping bathroom sink. "Tell the fiery lord of hell to let us into his domain, and for so we recite the spell, agree our souls are his to claim." Continuing to glow, the floor began to grow brighter and brighter, until every appliance was basking in the same eye-piercing light at the ground. Toaster's vision began to blur until it was only red. This is another separation point. I hope you guys are liking the image slideshow. I literally just googled Has-Been Hotel Brave Little Toaster and downloaded every image that showed up in the first few pictures of Google, which is why some of the Perfect Party Palace GIFs are on here. So, that's why. No other reason. Please use my GIFs in the server. I miss them. Alright. So separation. Back into narrating mode. Prickling against Alistair's skin was the same... Okay. I'm going to tell something to you guys. So, I put my computer on a stool that we have had for years. And it's in my room right now, which is why I'm using it. Because I didn't take it away from the kitchen or something. I'm normal. But, so we've had it for years, and it just leaked dirt. There's dirt on my clothes now. It got dirt on me. It got dirt on my I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Not because I'm going anywhere, I just like wearing them casually. Of course I do. And, it just got dirt on my... I'm sick of this house. I'm sick of this stool. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna start over. I'm sorry that happened. Prickling against Alistair's skin was the sense that something was wrong. Despite Hell's atmosphere, he never got that feeling here. Things were in his hands, no matter what those things were, and anyone who meant ill will towards him or his motives was crushed beneath his heel without much of a care. It was Hell. Never were things not wrong. This wrong was a different kind, though. He knew it. Whatever was behind him, in front of him, off to his side, it was something after him, and it was gaining speed. That wasn't something that he could label the usual kind of wrong. Urges to turn and look behind him, just to see what was out there, captured him as he stood up and shot behind. Right to left, he reminded himself. Looking that way lets you spot more things in the distance. He knew that from experience. Nothing was there. Nothing at all. The busy environment of Hell was all he could see. If someone in the city was out to harm him, he'd be able to spot them, or at least sense them. Alistair was very aware. He returned to his post at the front of the hotel, leaning against one of the front pedestals. He knew, eventually, it would be time to go back inside. He'd at least wait until Charlie signaled him in. The outside was comforting, despite the growing sense of suspicion in his heart. Or, in better terms, the empty pit in his chest where a heart normally would be. This is another separation. Sorry that part was so short. I wrote this sporadically between when I woke up at 12 p.m. It was a long day, ignore that. And like 6 p.m. maybe. It took me a while. Not even 6 p.m. It had to have been like 7. Either way, there's a pause, and now we are unpausing it and entering narration mode. In the moment, all of the appliances were grateful that the terrifying sink had given them a map of hell. The map was shockingly accurate, give or take a few outdated building locations. It was both helpful and concerning. Blood and other suspicious fluids littered the stone pathways they walked across. So far, they hadn't spotted anyone even close to radio in appearance. Would he still be an appliance in hell? A demon hound stood before them, leaning against a light pole and taking a drag from a cigarette. She turned to look at the huddled pile of appliances. Blanky sunk his head behind Toaster in fear. What kind of demon are you supposed to be? She raised one eyebrow, breaking from the pole and standing in front of them, blocking their path. We're just some appliances, Toaster stammered, cowering under the hound's shadow. We're looking for our friend. His name is Radio? Have you seen him? This seemed to intrigue the hound. She dropped her cigarette, crushing it under her bare paws. Ouch. You mean the radio demon? Of course I've seen him. You have? Where, miss? He's at that stupid hotel on the even worse side of town. East of here, or something. Can't miss it. Really? Yeah, whatever. Toaster beamed, moving one handle to tell Kirby to head in that direction. They waved goodbye to the hound, who just turned away. Thank you, ma'am. She didn't reply, but they were already off. Lampy climbed to the very top of the appliance pile, standing atop Kirby's handle as a lookout. He pointed his cord into the distance in front of them. I see a hotel logo, he exclaimed. The building, disturbingly tall and tinted a pinkish red, as most things in hell were, was quite easy to spot. It looked as if more effort had been put into its construction than any of the other buildings here. Thankful the hound knew where it was, Toaster instructed Kirby to trudge onward. That's certainly the hotel, Lampy. Good job. Lampy nodded, but quickly retreated back to his previous aura of indifference. Okay, another separation. Fun fact about this slideshow that is going on right now. Originally, it was set to do this every 5 minutes, but the recording was only 21 minutes originally. I had to restart it that time because I fucked it up at the very end. I am so sorry. And, yeah, it's set to go every 5 minutes, but then I realized you can't see all the images if it does that every 5 minutes, so now you get to see all of the images multiple times, because it's every 1 minute now. Alright, back to narrating mode. Look at that, Toaster whispered to his friends as they edged closer to the Has-Been Hotel. They pointed at a red figure in front of the building. That demon might be able to tell us where Radio is. They could tell that the demon, whoever they were, had already sensed the appliance's presence. All the better to interrogate them, Toaster supposed. Across from them, at the front of the hotel, Alistair's eyes widened in shock. He was hallucinating, wasn't he? He had to be. The only way to know was to head back inside the building. Pulling open the front door as silently as possible, Alistair scurried back in. He didn't even bother to lock it. They weren't real. Hallucinations can't enter the hotel lobby. All he could say was that he was thankful Husk wasn't there. The old cat hadn't been called in to work yet, was probably taking some drunken nap under one of the desks. If the appliances were really here, he'd be too out of it to hear them. That he could be grateful for. He went inside, Lampy sputtered from the front walkway, crossing his cord in aggravation. Toaster narrowed their eyes at the front door and braced for impact. Then we'll go in after him. Kirby? Below them, Kirby sighed. He revved up and pulled back. You got it. Towards the door they headed, with Lampy using his cord to swing it open, and Kirby pushing them through. The lobby was like a barren wasteland. It was dusty and crimson, smelling of stale rot and demonic mold growing in between the floorboards. Toaster cringed, glancing from side to side until they spotted the smiling red demon on one of the lobby's couches. It was difficult to discern what emotion the demon felt, his eyes nervous, yet his grin wide. The appliances split apart to look at him closely. "Do you know where our friend is? His name's Radio," Toaster demanded, surprising themselves at their own harsh tone. Speaking like that was new to them. The demon, still smiling, shook his head and shrugged. He spoke no words. To his horror, the appliances began circling him, keeping him stuck to the couch. There was nowhere he could go, not for as long as the other staff at the hotel were asleep. For once in all his time in hell, Alistair felt as if he were truly in danger. "We know you're lying. A hellhound girl said he'd be here," Kirby said. Alistair felt the slightest downward curl at the edge of his toothy grin. Would this be what got him to stop smiling? The appliances continued to threaten and demand, all but one. Silently analyzing Alistair was Lampy, observing him and his reactions from a distance. The lamp had long since tuned out everyone else, noticing little details about the demon in front of him. Everything about him seemed out of place, even for a place like hell. His outfit was a brilliant red, covered in redder stripes, the reflexive yellow, similar to that of Radio's one yellow eye. Even his smile was strange, the fact it began falling apart aside. Worst of all was the microphone that the demon had closely by his side. A radio microphone, one with its own yellow eye and illuminated on air across the top. Sure, Lampy was far from an expert on that setting. That was Radio's business, not his own. But he recognized that microphone anywhere. Radio loved the things. Radio loved them. "What's up with that microphone of yours?" Lampy asked, projecting loud enough to quiet the other appliances. Alistair was still smiling, but his pupils thinned like a cat's. He looked at the microphone. It looked back. He looked away. Kirby looked Alistair up and down. "Yeah, and those stripes on your suit look awfully familiar." "His scary smile, too," Blanky mumbled quietly, still hiding behind Toaster. All four appliances glanced at each other, and Toaster spoke up first. "Radio, is it really you?" "Would you four keep quiet?" Cut off, the appliances went silent. That voice was recognizable just about anywhere. It was Radio's voice, complete with the muffled static that covered his words. Alistair still smiled. He didn't want to, but if someone walked in, he wouldn't be able to explain it. He had to keep smiling. It was his job. "You're a demon," Toaster muttered, their expression now one of worry. "Why, Radio?" I don't want to tell you." There was so much he could say, and so little he was going to. The last thing Alistair wanted to do was tear apart this happy reunion they had. "Well, you better change back to a radio. We're going home," Kirby told him in a stern tone. "I can most certainly change back. You think I'll be a demon forever?" Blanky, at this, peered out from behind Toaster and smiled. "Then come on. We have to get back to the master." The other appliances turned away, Lampy doing so slower and with more suspicion. Alistair didn't blame him for being wary, because what he was about to say would certainly prove his concerns right. "No," he said, his voice flat. That stopped the appliances dead in their tracks, like a moving carriage coming to a sudden halt. They turned back to look at Alistair, all having fell silent. "I want to stay here," Alistair spoke. He tried his best to stay calm as he did. "I don't have to go back to your world if I don't want to, after all." "Radio," Blanky stuttered, quiet and weak. Alistair, despite the voice in his head screaming at him not to, leaned down to get a closer look at Blanky. In the blanket's eyes were tears. "We're your friends. Why won't you come along with us?" "Blanky, I have friends here, too." What came out of Alistair's mouth next cemented the fact that he was completely serious about his words. "I don't need you anymore." Blanky's eyes welled up in tears until he began violently bawling, with Toaster rushing to his side. Lampy tapped his base against the ground, looking up at Alistair in anger. If I may have a word with you, Radio? Outside? Sounded more enraged than Alistair had ever heard from the lamp before. After a cursory glance at the other appliances, Alistair turned to Lampy and nodded. You three try to act natural, Alistair said as he followed Lampy out. Other demons are here, you know. Alright, that was kind of longer than usual. But it's time for another separation. So, yeah. I haven't been doing the little, cursor circle thing. I don't know if the cursor shows or not. I can't remember from, my old videos. It's been a while. Yeah, narrating mode now. Sorry. Outside the Hasbin Hotel was red grass and not much else. Behind the building it was dark and quiet, and nothing, nor nobody, would interrupt Alistair and Lampy's conversation. Alistair was feared by all. Nobody would try to, anyway. Arms crossed, Alistair looked down at the bronze lamp in bothered curiosity. What possible business could you have dragging me out here? His back was facing Lampy, keeping him from seeing his face. Lampy already knew that dumb smile was still plastered across it, as if it were impossible to remove. Out of all of them, you're probably the least disappointed that I'm staying, Alistair continued. I bet you're glad I won't be around any longer. A pang of heartbreak hit Lampy, but he pushed it down and away. He didn't have time to think about that. Not right now. You really can't just come back? Everyone wants you to join us. We have the tube to revive you, Lampy snapped, recoiling when he realized how genuinely crushed he sounded. That was far from his intention. What kind of life would I lead as an appliance? Did you ever think about that, huh? Of course not, Lampy. You never care about how others feel. That one seriously stung. Lampy was both physically and mentally beneath Alistair, smaller than him in every sense. Was that why his words hurt so much? Alistair began to pace around while he spoke, refusing to look Lampy in the eyes. On Earth, the higher tech appliances think I'm weak and incapable. They think I can't run as fast because I'm made with different parts. Not even you four actually value my contributions. It's not how it is here. Here, I'm powerful. I'm respected. Even more rage boiled inside Lampy, and he turned his bulb to the ground. That's what you get out of abandoning us? More respect? You really think we don't respect you? How selfish are you? The demon stopped, keeping his back turned, and began laughing. It was a sickening laugh, one coming from the darkest pits of hell. His nonchalant attitude towards everything only infuriated Lampy further. Being in hell has driven you mad. You were never this way back home. You were awful, annoying, sure, but you weren't even listening. Please, Radio, listen to me. Lampy's tone was softer now, with a hint of real concern for his friend. Alistair almost turned around, almost considered looking at Lampy, but he decided against it. He gave no indication that he'd reply. Lampy pushed onward. I know you're mad you had to die, Radio. We basically forced you to, and that was wrong of us. It was. But you know we needed a sacrifice, though, don't you? It was either you or all of the animals. Now we have the tube to bring you back. It was the one with the dumb numbers. F5? FJ? 5F? I don't know. A pause. Lampy shook his lampshade, knowing he was derailing his own rant. What I'm trying to say is, Radio, please, come back. The Master needs you. The other appliances need you, and I... Lampy choked up, swallowing around cotton. I need you, Radio. I missed you. If you don't want to come back, I get it, but can you at least tell it to my face? That's all I'm asking for. Alistair, no, Radio, crossed his arms tighter, almost to the point that he began shaking. He finally let them rest at his sides, and began to turn to face Lampy. Lampy, his voice was hushed and slow. That's when Lampy noticed that he was no longer smiling. Clouds of pink smoke billowed out around the demon's body, growing until Lampy could see articles of clothing softly hit the ground. Lampy watched intently, letting out a relieved sigh when he saw what was in front of him. Discarded clothing and blood littered the deep red grass beneath the Hasbin Hotel, and placed neatly in the center of it all was a small red radio. "Good evening, folks. We're back to our regularly scheduled broadcast," Radio said. Lampy hopped forward, pulling Radio toward him with his cord and into a tight embrace. "I knew I'd be able to convince you." Lampy brought Radio even closer. "I'm glad you're back." Radio gave Lampy's bulb a light tap with his antenna. "Glad to be back, but we ought to head out. Once the portal business I know of closes up, we're toast." All right, let's get going." Radio paused for a moment. You gonna let go of me, Lampy?" "No." "Yeah, that's fair." Just as Radio finished talking, the rest of the appliances dashed toward them, panic in their eyes. "The demons! They spotted us! We better—" "Radio!" Toaster exclaimed. "You're back." "Sure am, and it looks like you found yourself in quite the bend. I know a place with open portals. Let's skedaddle." Radio waved with his antenna, and the other appliances followed closely behind. "Now will you get off of me?" Radio whispered to Lampy. "The answer's still no," Lampy whispered back. "Of course." "All right, that's the end. I fucked it up a few times. I'm going to confess. But this is the 8th time I've done it. It's been an hour and a half, nearly, since I've, started doing this, and I don't care anymore." So, that was the fanfic. If you want to read, like, the first draft that I made of it, I'm not showing you the final draft because I'm sick and insane. You can either DM me on Discord, which would be boring and cringe, so don't do it, or you can be annoying, which is fun, and you can DM Jeremy about it, and you can annoy him, because I'm mean and rude, and, yeah, he has a link. So, yeah. That's, The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Hell 2. 2 is in rewrite, not 2 is in sequel. Sequel is in progress, do not ask me about it. Goodbye! Okay, I know how to turn this off now. In the original recordings, I, kept forgetting how to turn it off. I know how to do it now, so watch this.